a state of recession as we speak.
Member for Sisala West, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, young man.
Thank you very much.
I want to talk about the youth. The youth of this country can undo or bring peace to Ghana. Of late, there have been several attacks, fighting, tensions all over the country. They are bubbling with energy like you. If you should reflect your past, the present, and your future, what advice will you give to the youth of this country so that they will all know that the country Ghana is one and we are all heading towards the same goal?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As you said, one of the most peculiar things about youth is abundance of energy. And when energy is not directed because of the understanding and the grasp of a vision, many times, sometimes it tends to go the wrong way. I want to say the most important advice I can give, and I would say it's not just going to be an advice, but I believe it's something that across the political divide, we as young people can work together on, is to find ways in which we can help our generation and those who are behind us to start appreciating the need to transforming our country, transforming our economy, and for that matter, being an inspiration to the rest of Africa again. Now, when we start being possessed by that greater vision that goes beyond us as individuals, goes beyond our community, transcends into our nation, and goes beyond our nation to the continent of Africa, I believe that becomes an overriding obsession that clearly makes it difficult for us to be able to, as it were, direct our energies to things that are not exactly productive. I would say we have great challenges ahead of us as young people, and the enormity of that challenge must always be must have a sobering effect on us as young people. And I would want to say that let us urge our young people to constantly look at that bigger picture, because with that bigger picture, you many times realize that it's not really worth it, as it were, spending your energy on the little things, but to, as it were, channel it to something bigger. And the whole dimension of a nation, building a nation, restoring a nation back to a place of pride, should be an overriding passion, and I think we can work across the political divide to imbue that in our young generation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are all aware now that the cedi is falling as against other countries, other currencies. You know, I'm not Ahi. I'm not Ahi, so leave me alone. Now, you were asked a question, whether you are an economist or that. If you should get a nod and be made a minister, definitely, or a deputy minister, you are going to help your minister. What advice will you give your minister so that the cedi, the free fall of the cedi as it is now, will be checked as against other currencies?
Yeah, thank you so very much, Mr. Chairman. What advice will I give my minister? My minister is already such an experienced man, and I'm sure I rather have a lot of things to learn, working with him. But if you were asking what my perspective is on the issue, I would say generally the price of goods and services is always an issue of demand and supply. That the more you demand a particular commodity, the higher the price goes. What I mean by that is simple. Now, for a country that constantly has a greater demand for imports than other people having demand for what we are exporting, we are clearly going to continue to have difficulties. We export. Unfortunately, the value of our export on a constant basis is not matching that of our import. many times we manage to have some kind of equilibrium because of what you call donor inflows, whether private or official, that come in to, as it were, ensure that on a balance of payment basis, we have some amount of equilibrium. Otherwise, in the reality of it, export, as long as export value continue to be lower than import, you continue to have what you call the prices of various foreign currencies being much higher than our currency. There's not a short-term solution. The main way you can resolve it is to be able to do something drastic about our export capacity. We need to be able to, as it were, sometimes use even the depreciation of the currency as a motivation to be able to, as it were, have greater emphasis on export. The situation where in our country, as soon as anybody has access to some, let's say, investable capital, the first thing people want to think about is how to set up shops, and shops that are going to be importing goods either from China or from UK or from Europe or from Dubai. That situation clearly is going to continue putting pressure on our currency. It is important for us to come to a point where instead of wanting the quick wins, which normally you get when you are dealing in import, people must start thinking more about nation and start thinking a little more medium to long term. And medium to long term means let us try to move a bit more into the export area. That export area is a way on a sustainable basis we can resolve this difficulty. Now, I will also say that adding to the whole issue of import-export is the whole issue of revenue against expenditure. As a people, to the extent that our revenues are not matching our expenditure, we are clearly going to have difficulties balancing our budget. That's why you will see, for example, that over the last couple of years, I would say that between 2001 all the way to about 2006, things were a bit more moderate in terms of the fluctuations. But from 2006, 2007 to 2008, you could see clearly that there is pressure as far as the budget is concerned. Why? Because expenditures have started outstripping revenues by big margins. And when you have that, naturally you are going to have a situation where the deficit financing is high. And when you have high deficit financing, it comes with a twin deficit known as a current account deficit. And those two together clearly will bring about pressure on the city anytime, any day.
Another member from Fansman East. Then we go to New Job in North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. FIFI Kwete, have my congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I have two questions for you. What, in your own opinion, is some of the causes of the socioeconomic underdevelopment of Ghana? And how best will you help your minister to avert it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Our problem is not complex, it's simple. And it's simple because any group of people who simply cannot produce enough to feed themselves and produce enough to be able to sell to others will continue to have difficulty. Our difficulty as a country is that we are not making full use of our potential. Our potential, national though you may call it, comes from the individuals who make up that nation. Now, so if you have a nation and the individuals within that nation are not optimizing their potential, you clearly are going to have a difficulty in terms of raising national income, in terms of growing your economy. I feel that the answer to our difficulty is to create conditions that can, as it were, enable each and every one of us to identify what our real potentials are. Let me just give you an example. Now, when you have a country where many of us, many times, take up jobs. Or let's even say it this way, we take up even courses. Courses not because we feel those courses are the courses we truly desire to study. The courses we feel are our God-given courses in terms of our talent. We take up those courses simply because we feel that the quickest means that when we finish school, we can get a job. You end up having a situation where people move into job position where there's no genuine fulfillment. There's no joy doing what they do. And when people are not happy doing what they do, they cannot be very productive. Now, when you have, for example, somebody who clearly is excellent at mathematics, but who feels that if I go and study mathematics in university, It's not going to enable me to have a good job. And because of that, he moves away from mathematics as soon as he entered university to go and study medicine. Ends up becoming a medical doctor. Brilliant though he may be, you clearly cannot be the best medical doctor because that really is not his area of natural expertise. I'm saying that we as a country must start encouraging, especially the younger generation, to start going after their dream. People must have the courage and the capacity to go after what they love because that's the only way they can excel. Now, when you have a legislator whose natural area of interest and happiness and fulfillment is legislation, he will be the best legislator because outside of even a normal parliamentary session, he's consumed completely by legislation. He studies every bit of legislation. He's studying the situation in the advanced democracies. He's constantly immersing himself in that knowledge, and he can only be the best. The same applies to a sportsman. The same applies to whatever. And I feel that actually is the fundamental difficulty of our country, that we have too many of us who are in areas where we really should not be. The only reason why we are is because we feel that's the only way we can survive. If I don't study this, I won't be able to get a good job. And if I don't get a good job, I will have difficulties. So therefore, you have too many people who are operating in places they should not be operating. I'm saying for now, maybe it's a bit difficult, but we should be able to start from our younger generation, encourage them to have the courage to pursue your dream. And any country where people pursue their dream, that country starts to shoot. Because when you do what you love to do, you excel. When you do what you don't love to do, no matter how good you are, you can only be mediocre at best. You cannot be excel. And the country needs to excel by having people doing what they love to do.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my second question is this. When you were nominated, some expressed only surprise but doubt about your capacity and background to be able to do the role assigned you. May I know from you, do you have the capacity to cope up with the job?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I can understand the surprise which was generally expressed. I think principally a lot of people, largely because over the last several years, have heard of me purely within the political arena. So clearly a lot of people did not know at all that I had any background at all relating to finance. No matter how small it may be, they don't have any idea. So that surprise was genuinely, understood. I understood it to be that we don't know. This person doesn't show to have any background at all, whether in terms of knowledge of economics or knowledge of working in the finance industry. I want to say that the nomination is an awesome responsibility. I go in first and foremost with a desire to want to learn. I go in also with a desire to change the status quo to the extent that it is possible. Because the status quo certainly must change. Because I think every single one of us in this country will know that if we have to follow what we have done over the last 52 years, we certainly cannot expect to get any different result over the next 52 years. So there must certainly be ways in which we can change the status quo. And to be able to do that, sometimes you need to have a bit of freshness. That perspective, that ability to be able to look at things a bit differently. You come in from a dimension where you are able to ask it to question things that people who have been within the same system sometimes don't feel comfortable challenging because that's what they love to do all their lifetime. And I say that clearly for me is a perspective from which I'm coming. The desire to get in there, learn as quickly as I can, and as much as possible, bring about change. But at least one thing you can expect from me. I'm the kind of person, I believe my principle in life is simple. I either drink deep or I don't taste at all. You give me a task, you can be certain I will perform it to the best of my capacity, and it will be excellent.